if you don't have a technical model, you can get caught up in prescribing drills, both from a mobility, strength, speed, as well as movement efficiency point of view for the sake of it and not purposeful. So if you have that technical model, i.e. you've got a clear coaching eye, you're looking for specific areas that you value and you know are really important when it comes to acceleration. That might be shin angle, torso angle, are they parallel? What's our ankle stiffness like? What's the rotation like? Through looking at the posterior through the trunk, shoulders, and the pelvis, anterior and posterior pelvic tilt. Similar with max velocity. What's our shin angle like? What's our touch distance? So there's some key areas that you can focus on. So we need to also understand that it's not everything, but it is a big piece of the puzzle when working on efficiency, ultimately helping athletes run faster and reducing the risk of injury, but also being more economical, using less energy to get from A to B throughout endurance-based sports like AFL. The issue with kinograms is it's an isolated photo on one particular position of one particular run, and there's a lot of variation in how an athlete moves from day to day, the surface that they're on, the context of the run, and so forth. However, through James Ross' research with rugby athletes over a long period of time, it showed that athletes bias the way they move, i.e. are they more air-based, elastic-based athletes? Are they more ground-based, your sort of concentric dominant-based athletes? Do they get from A to B with short ground contacts, or is it more longer ground contact time? Generally speaking, that without intervention, so not looking to coach it or prescribe specifically to change the way they move on his quadrant on a given day that you test, they tend to stay in the same quadrant. That's quite consistent. So that gives us confidence that kinograms do have a place, particularly if you don't have a big budget and you just want to simply use your phone. Quite practical. You can show athletes how they're moving with that video and then cut up using screenshots of specific landmarks and look at the positions that the athletes are hitting. This is the SMAs, the sprint assessment score, and these are the different landmarks. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different areas to look for in max velocity. Excessive trunk rotation, we'll get some points against. Excessive hip extension, and this has been used by biomechanists over a long period of time. I use the number system that he's put together to value how that athlete is moving, which is this system here. So effectively, athletes can get up 12 points on a given one of those positions. They can get 12 would be poorly rated, extremely poor. If they're really efficient, they'll all get very little points. So 0 would be perfect score. And obviously, the lower score you have, the less kinematics has in terms of a risk factor for injury. So the more efficient, less energy you'll use to get from A to B. I mentioned as well the CMAs. So Tom DeSantos has also built a good framework to help with your lateral speed, and he's given some good guide on what to work on. If you're seeing things like limited knee flexion, or you're seeing the trunk is leaning back, or there's too much sway in the trunk from a posterior view and trunk rotation. And like I mentioned, that can be, of course, due to lack of ankle stiffness, perhaps from a past injury. Foot might not be in neutral, so they could have that duck foot, a verted position, what to work on with, which we know is put them at high risk for ACL. Hip and knee, so that valgus position, what to work on, and then wide lateral leg plant distance as well. So he's listed all the risk factors in lateral move, both from a cutting perspective and what to work on if you're seeing that in your coaching. And then last screenshot to share is this one here, which is also a point system that Tom's put together for the cutting movement assessment score. The CMAs, if you're seeing that default, like lateral leg plant distance is too wide, they'll get 2 points. If it's moderate, it's 1. And if it's narrow, they get 0. So if it's quite close to their hip, it's 0. So you can rank that and then ultimately look at areas that you need to focus on with that athlete. From there, you can also create a bucket with a squad. So obviously with rehab, it's very individualized and you customize the program, and that's easy to do when you're just working with 1 or 5 athletes. But when you've got a large group of 30 to 40 athletes, the next best thing you can do is bucket them. So if you conduct a test in the off-season, pre-season, get their CMAS score, get their SMAS score, conduct your basic strength and power assessments, diagnostics with using force plates and 1RM testing. Then we can start to put athletes in groups for how they move, but also what areas they need to focus on from their kinetics point of view. So you'll have guys that are really strong, but they need to work on their rate of force development. So they might go into a power group. You might have athletes that have got the strength and the power, but their efficiency is lacking. So you're going to get some extra drilling exposures to them across the week.